Welcome to Skinner and Chalmers Weekly Roast. Today, Hedgehogs and High Rollers, Skinner and Chalmers' wacky D&D adventure with Sonic and Shadow.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our new episode of Skinner and Chalmers Weekly Roast, a podcast where only the steamiest topics are discussed. It's the 11th March, and as always, I'm Superintendent Chalmers, and by my side is my good old friend, Principal Seymour Skinner. Welcome, Seymour.
Hello, Chalmers, and hello to our listeners out there. Today is a very special day because this time we are not alone in the studio. Our two friends from the neighborhood have been invited as special guests for this episode.
Oh, yes, you are very welcome, Sonic and Shadow. I'm really looking forward to this podcast session here on Earth today.
Thanks for having us here on your podcast today. And hey, Skinner, long time no see.
Indeed, it's good to be here. So, what's on the agenda today?
Oh, yes, haven't seen you both for a while. Just once when you were trimming the hedge, Sonic. And for the topic today, well, one of our viewers, CthulhuBytes, had asked on YouTube what was the best D&D campaign we had ever played. So, Chalmers and I thought it would be fun to reminisce about our greatest campaign together as a team. Do you remember that one, Sonic and Shadow? The one where we spent countless hours rolling dice and slaying dragons?
Of course. At least I do. That was the best time ever. We should talk about it.
Yeah. What made that campaign so special?
Well, let's start with which D&D edition we played. It was 5th edition, right?
That's correct, Chalmers. We started playing it when the newest edition came out and never looked back since then. The rules were much more streamlined compared to previous editions.
Yeah, I really liked how they simplified some of the mechanics while still keeping the essence of D&D intact. It made for a very enjoyable experience.
That's right. And do you remember exactly which 5th edition campaign we played? In D&D circles, it's rated well by many players.
Of course you're talking about Storm King's Thunder, right? I still vividly recall that campaign. The giants, the elemental evils, and the thrilling climax.
Yeah, that was amazing. Our group was so diverse, and each one of us brought something unique to the table.
Indeed. So what characters did we play in that campaign? Do you remember them all by name and class?
Well, I played as a dwarven cleric named Thorin Ironfoot. He was quite the battle priest with an affinity for smithing weapons and armor.
I was a human wizard named Alistair Oakenshield. He specialized in illusion magic and had a knack for getting into trouble, but always managed to talk his way out of it.
As for me, I played as the fastest hedgehog alive, Sonic the Hedgehog. Of course, my character was slightly tweaked to fit the D&D setting. He had a few extra abilities like super speed and agility, but he still relied on his wits and reflexes to get through tough situations.
And I played as Shadow the Hedgehog. My character was more of a rogue type, with some dark magic at his disposal. He had a mysterious past that often came back to haunt him, but he always managed to overcome any obstacle thrown his way.
Now, let's talk about the adventures we had together in this campaign. Do you remember that time when we were exploring the ancient mysteries of Castle of the Cloud Giants?
Oh, yeah. That was an unforgettable part of the campaign. We entered the Castle of the Cloud Giants trying to find clues and unravel the secrets hidden within its walls.
And boy, was it full of surprises. From the moment we stepped inside, we were greeted by traps and puzzles galore. The castle itself felt like a living creature, waiting to pounce on any unsuspecting adventurer.
Speaking of traps, do you recall the room filled with statues that came to life? That was quite a nerve-wracking encounter.
I still get chills just thinking about it. Those animated statues seemed almost impossible to defeat, but thankfully, our combined wits and abilities helped us prevail.
That's right. Our diverse group of characters really shined in that situation. Alistair used his illusion magic to create a diversion, allowing us to focus on taking down the statues one by one. Meanwhile, Thorin Ironfoot smote any undead creatures lurking in the shadows.
And don't forget how I used my speed to dodge incoming attacks and flank the statues from behind, making them easier targets for the rest of the party.
Yes, indeed. Your quick reflexes and agility were crucial in that particular encounter. And Shadow, your rogue-like abilities and knowledge of cloud giant culture proved invaluable in navigating through the castle.
Thank you, Charms. It was definitely a challenging environment, but together we managed to overcome each obstacle we encountered.
One of the most memorable parts of that section was the final showdown with the Storm Giant himself. He was a formidable foe, but we stood united and fought him with everything we had.
That's right. We used all our skills and resources to bring down that mighty giant. It was a true test of our mettle and friendship.
Indeed, it was a thrilling experience that I will never forget. And I'm so glad we got to share those moments together as friends. And speaking of the Cloud Castle, does anyone remember the cloud stair we encountered to get there? That was a sight to behold.
Oh, absolutely. It was like walking on air. And if we slipped, we would plummet into the abyss below. Talk about high stakes.
Indeed. And don't forget how Alistair, being the master of illusion, created a convincing diversion to keep the guards occupied while we made our way up.
Yeah, and my favorite part was when we reached the top of the cloud stair and found ourselves facing the gatehouse. That massive door seemed almost impenetrable.
True. But our group managed to work together once again, using all our abilities to find a way inside. What a moment that was.
Yes, and once we entered the gatehouse, we discovered the Castellan's quarters. That room was full of secrets and traps, making it a real challenge for us to explore.
That's right. The Castellan's quarters were like a maze, filled with hidden compartments and deadly mechanisms. It felt like we were in an Indiana Jones movie.
And who could forget that joke Alistair made when he triggered a trap that caused a vase to smash? He said something like, "I hope this wasn't an original." It lightened the mood just when we needed it.
Yes, that was a perfect moment of levity amidst all the tension. Alistair's sense of humor really helped us stay grounded during those challenging times.
It did indeed, Charms. And looking back now, I can say that those experiences truly brought us closer together as friends.
I wholeheartedly agree, Shadow. Thanks to that campaign, we formed bonds that will last a lifetime.
Oh yes, the campaign also made me buy a huge palm tree. That was an impressive treasure we found there.
Of course. How could I forget the palm tree? I'd love to have a palm tree like that now, too. I'd like to put it in my hallway next to the front door where everyone can see it straight away.
Wow. I'll definitely be visiting you more often if you have such a great palm tree. I have a preference for potted plants with flavor.
While we're on the subject, we also played a different campaign at some point. Unfortunately, I can't remember exactly what it was called, but it was somehow about an Eye of Shazam. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. I recall that vividly. It was quite the challenge to retrieve the eye from its pedestal. The room was trapped with all sorts of deadly mechanisms designed to protect it. But we managed to work together and overcome them.
And then there was the time when we had to stop that mad scientist from awakening an ancient dragon. We had to navigate through his twisted labyrinth filled with traps and mutated creatures, all while trying not to set off any of his experiments.
And let's not forget about the time we got mixed up in a political conspiracy within the city. We had to uncover the truth behind the assassination attempts on key figures and stop whoever was responsible before they could cause more chaos.
I have a feeling that was probably a foreshadowing for Skinner's evil twin. But yes, those were indeed some of our most memorable adventures together.
Those were truly some of our most cherished memories as adventurers. It's amazing how much we accomplished together during that campaign.
Indeed it is, Shadow. I remember one particular quest where we had to find a legendary artifact known as the Sword of Physics. The sword was said to be hidden deep within a treacherous dungeon filled with all sorts of dangerous traps and monsters.
Oh, that's right. I almost forgot about that one. We had so many close calls during that mission. Like the time when Shadow got stuck in a pit trap and I had to use my super speed to rescue him before he drowned.
Well, It was hardly a fair fight with you running circles around me like that, but thank you for the assist nonetheless. And let's not forget about your brilliant idea of using your spin dash technique to break through those stone doors. That really came in handy.
Yes, Sonic's spin dash was quite useful indeed. It made short work of those doors that had stumped us for hours. But what about the moment when we finally found the sword? Do you remember how it felt holding that legendary weapon in your hands?
Oh, it was truly, inspiring. The power that radiated from that blade. It made me feel like I could conquer anything. And then there was the time when we faced off against the dungeon's final boss, an ancient leash named Necrotaurus.
Oh yeah, that battle was intense. We had to use all of our skills and abilities just to survive. I remember Shadow using his dark magic to confuse the Lich while I distracted it with my speed attacks. And then Frorin here.
Yes, Frorin played a vital role in that battle as well. His divine magic was instrumental in weakening Necrotaurus and allowing us to deliver the final blow. It was truly a team effort.
Indeed it was. And after we defeated Necrotaurus, we were able to claim the sword for ourselves. The feeling of triumph and accomplishment that overcame us at that moment. I'll never forget it.
Well said, Shadow. Shadow. It truly was an unforgettable campaign filled with countless memories and adventures. I know it seems random, but there is just a question popping up in my head. What about the snacks we enjoyed during those sessions? Do you remember any particular favorite?
Oh, I do. We always had a great selection of chips and dips to munch on while we played. My personal favorite was the spicy salsa that Sonic would bring sometimes. It really added some flavor to our game nights.
Well, thank you, Skinner. I'm glad you enjoyed it. As for snacks, I remember we used to have these delicious cookies with different colored icing. They were always a hit during breaks between sessions.
And I can't forget about the ginger ale that Chalmers would occasionally bring. It was refreshing and helped keep us hydrated while we played for hours on end.
Ah, yes, those were good times indeed. Do you think we'll ever be able to recreate that magic in another campaign?
I don't know about that, but it certainly would be fun to try. Maybe one day when our schedules align again, we can gather around the table and embark on a new adventure together. What do you think, Sonic and Shadow? Would you be interested in joining us for another campaign?
Count me in. I'd love to play with all of you again. As for you, Shadow...
I wouldn't mind giving it a try. It would certainly be an interesting experience.
Wonderful. Until then, let us cherish these memories and look forward to whatever challenges may lie ahead in our individual campaigns. And who knows? Maybe one day we'll stumble upon each other again in some far-off land, fighting side by side against a common foe.
That would be awesome. I can't wait for that day to come. Until then, here's to many more adventures and good times ahead for all of us. To our greatest D&D campaign ever. Cheers!
Indeed, here's to the memories we've made and the ones yet to be written. May they always bring us joy and excitement in equal measure. To our greatest D&D campaign ever. Cheers.
Hear, hear. Here to new adventures, old friends, and the unforgettable memories that bind us together forevermore. Here's to our greatest D&D campaign ever. Cheers. Cheers.
Well, while we're drinking the wonderful apple juice that Skinner pressed himself today, what do you think about talking about your own D&D campaign? We should definitely let our viewers listen in on the brainstorming session.
Indeed, Chalmers. We should discuss what kind of setting we want to explore this time around. Perhaps a high fantasy realm filled with elves and dwarves. Or maybe something more exotic like a desert-themed world full of ancient ruins and treasure. Or a parallel world inside a large smoking oven. Or with one of the biggest, most formidable bosses in the entire history of gaming. Matt from Wii Sports?
Well, Seymour, I've always been partial to the idea of an adventure in a futuristic setting. You know, where we get to play as superheroes or space explorers? That could be really fun.
A futuristic campaign does sound intriguing, but Sonic, I think we should also consider the fact that our two friends here might not be familiar with that kind of setting. It's important to make sure everyone feels comfortable and has a good time.
Haha, That's an excellent point, Shadow. Perhaps we could find a way to incorporate elements from both high fantasy and sci-fi into our campaign. You know, like having magic exist alongside advanced technology or something along those lines.
I think that would be quite the challenge, but also very rewarding for all of us. It could lead to some truly unique storytelling opportunities.
And we can always have a mix of races and classes too. Like, you know, elves with laser guns or dwarves who are Mitch warrior pilots? That would be so cool.
Indeed, the possibilities are endless. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's discuss our characters for this campaign. Who wants to go first and share their ideas?
Well, I was thinking about playing as a half-elf rogue named Luna Kettleshade. She would be quite the charming adventurer with an affinity for stealth and trickery. What do you all think?
That sounds like a wonderful character, Chalmers. As for me, I was thinking about playing as a halfling sorcerer named Brisbane Winkytoes. He would be your typical mischievous halfling with a knack for magic and an insatiable curiosity.
Yay! And I'm gonna play as Sonic the Hedgehog, of course. But this time around, he's gonna have some cool sci-fi abilities like super speed boosters and energy shields. He'll be able to run faster than lightning and take on any challenge that comes his way.
Interesting. And I was thinking about playing as Shadow the Hedgehog, but with a twist. Instead of being a rogue, he would be more of a cybernetically enhanced warrior who wields powerful energy weapons and has access to advanced technology. He'll still have that mysterious air about him, though.
Well, then it seems we have our party. Now all that remains is for us to choose the campaign's name. Any ideas? Something catchy like Magpie Stars Warren's Revenge or Galactic Guardians. Return of Emperor Premier Romanov.
Sounds good, or maybe Van Gogh, the Loomis of failing. Or, no, wait. How about Sonic Boom and Shadowfall? It has a nice ring to it, don't you think? Plus, it incorporates both Sonic and Shadow's names in a clever way.
I like it. And hey, maybe we could even get some cool merchandise with that name on it. Like action figures or t-shirts.
That would be quite the novelty. But for now, let's focus on planning our adventures and making this campaign one to remember. After all, we have a whole wheat world of possibilities ahead of us.
Well said, Shadow. And with that, I think it's time for us to begin crafting the story of Sonic Boom and Shadowfall. Are you all ready to embark on this epic journey together?
Absolutely. Let's get started.
Bring it on, guys.
Yeah, let's cause some trouble as usual.
All right, then. Everyone take a moment to roll your character's ability scores and assign them to their respective attributes. Once you have that done, let's discuss our first major decision. Where should we set our campaign? Should it be on a futuristic Earth, like planet, or perhaps in a completely alien world filled with strange creatures and exotic locales?
I think both options have their merits. A familiar setting might help ease new players into the game, while an entirely foreign environment could provide us with endless opportunities for exploration and discovery. What do you all think? Should we go with Earth, like or completely alien?
I vote for Alien. We can have so many cool creatures and planets to explore if we go that route. Plus, it'll be a nice change of pace from the usual medieval fantasy settings. So we can combine old and new, as previously mentioned here on Earth today.
A fair point, but I think we should also consider the fact that some players might prefer a more familiar setting. Perhaps we could find a way to compromise? Like having Earth, like planets coexist alongside truly alien ones in the same campaign universe?
That's an excellent idea, Shadow. You always try to take everyone's side objectively. It's really great that we have you as a friend and neighbor. Neighbor?
Thank you. I'm also very happy to have met you at Skinner's neighborhood garden party. If it hadn't been for the house fire and the visit from the fire department, I wouldn't have opened the door that day and tasted Skinner's delicious burnt chili dogs.
Indeed, Skinner brings wonderful people together and forms a lovely community in Memedfield. But now back to campaign planning. So with that settled, let's move on to our next decision. What kind of adversaries should we face in this campaign? Should they be traditional fantasy monsters like dragons and orcs, or should we introduce some sci-fi foes like robots and genetically engineered super soldiers?
Soup or soldier? I prefer soup. But fun aside, I think a mix of both would work well. It would add variety to our encounters and keep things interesting for everyone involved. What do you all think? Should we have traditional fantasy monsters alongside sci-fi foes?
Definitely. We can even have some cool crossovers like dragons with laser breath or orcs riding on robotic dinosaurs. That would be so awesome!
Indeed, and don't forget about the possibility of introducing new monsters that are unique to this setting. Perhaps we could create our own alien races and creatures for players to encounter and fight against.
That sounds like a wonderful idea, Shadow. It would give us even more opportunities for creativity and world building. So, with all of these decisions made, it's time for us to begin crafting the storyline of Sonic Boom and Shadowfall. Who wants to take the first stab at creating an opening hook that will draw our players in and make them want to learn more about this incredible campaign?
Well, I was thinking, what if we begin with a massive interstellar war between two powerful factions, one led by a benevolent king who seeks peace and prosperity for all races, and the other ruled by an insane tyrant obsessed with conquest and domination? The players' characters would be recruited into the former faction as they embark on a desperate mission to find a legendary artifact that could tip the balance of power in their favor. Does that sound like something you all might enjoy?
Oh yeah! That sounds awesome, Seymour. I can't wait to see how this plays out.
Indeed, it has the potential to be quite thrilling. Very well then. Let us begin crafting our tale of Sonic Boom and Shadowfall. The fate of countless worlds hangs in the balance, and it is up to us to decide their destiny.
With those words, we shall embark on an epic journey filled with adventure, intrigue, and peril. Let the tale of Sonic Boom and Shadowfall begin. Are you all ready to create history together?
Absolutely. Let's do this.
Bring it on, guys! I can't wait to see what kind of trouble we can get into this time around.
Indeed, the future awaits. Let us seize it with both hands and forge our own destiny. As long as we remember to work together and have fun along the way, I'm sure we'll make some unforgettable memories.
Indeed, Shadow. And who knows? Maybe this campaign will be so amazing that it'll inspire a whole new line of Sonic Boom and Shadowfall merchandise.
Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves just yet. For now, why don't we start by discussing our first major quest? Perhaps it could involve tracking down a powerful artifact that has the ability to bend time and space itself. What do you all think?
That sounds like an interesting challenge. But shouldn't we also consider the possibility of encountering other groups who might want this artifact for their own nefarious purposes? We don't want to end up in a situation where we have to fight against our friends, you know?
That is indeed a valid concern. Sonic, perhaps we could devise some sort of plan that would allow us to secure the artifact without causing any unnecessary conflict. Like, for instance, disguising ourselves as bards and infiltrating the local tavern where rumors about its location are known to spread.
That's a brilliant idea, Shadow. And who better than us to pull off such a daring heist? All right, then. It seems our first order of business is to gather some information on this artifact and plan our approach. Any other ideas before we get started?
Well, I was thinking, what if we could make this quest into more of a treasure hunt? You know, with riddles and puzzles scattered throughout the campaign that would lead us closer to finding the artifact. It'd be like an Easter egg hunt for adults.
Oh, I love it, Alistair. That would add so much more depth and replayability to our adventures. We could even have different paths leading to the artifact based on how well we solve these puzzles.
Indeed, it seems we're all on the same page here. Now, let's get started with planning out this treasure hunt of epic proportions. Who wants to take notes? And more importantly, who gets to be the one giving us all those clever riddles and puzzles?
I volunteer for both tasks. I'll make sure we have a well-planned campaign with plenty of challenges along the way. And as for the riddles, you can count on me to come up with some real head-scratchers that will keep everyone on their toes.
Sounds good to me. Now let's get started and make this campaign one for the history books.
Indeed, and remember, teamwork is key. If we all work together and use our unique abilities to their fullest potential, there's no challenge we can't overcome. So here's to a successful Sonic Boom and Shadow 4 campaign.
To new adventures, old friends, and endless possibilities. May the dice always roll in our favor.
Hear, hear. Now then, who's ready to begin crafting this incredible journey? The world of Sonic Boom and Shadow Fall awaits us. Let's make it count.
Oh man, I can't wait to see what kind of crazy stuff we come up with for this campaign. It's gonna be epic, that's for sure. And hey, maybe we could even get some new players to join us along the way. You know, expand our little group and make it even more awesome than before. We could invite Yugi when he's back from his card game journey.
That is indeed a possibility, but let's not get ahead of ourselves just yet. For now, why don't we focus on making this campaign as amazing as possible for the four of us? We can always think about expanding later once we have something truly special to offer new players.
Shadow makes a good point there. It's important that we don't spread ourselves too thin at first, but who knows, maybe our campaign will be so popular and well received that others will want to join us regardless. Regardless.
Well, whatever happens, I just hope we can all have as much fun playing together as we did in the past. Those were some of the best times of my life, you know. Just sitting around a table with good friends and losing ourselves in another world. It's hard to explain if you haven't experienced it for yourself.
I couldn't agree more, Seymour. And hey, maybe we could even get some of our old crew back together again. Like Tails or Knuckles. Imagine the adventures we could have with them by our side.
That would indeed be interesting, but for now, let's focus on what we can control. We still have a campaign to plan and an incredible journey ahead of us. So without further ado, who wants to start brainstorming some more ideas for our treasure hunt? Anybody got any good riddles or puzzles in mind already?
Well, I was thinking about using a mix of classic riddles and modern puzzles. You know, like those escape room challenges where you have to solve a series of clues to find the next piece of information. And as for the treasure itself, how does an ancient artifact that grants its wielder control over time sound?
Oh man, that would be awesome. Imagine being able to slow down or speed up time whenever you wanted. We could use it to become invincible or solve puzzles in the blink of an eye. This campaign is shaping up to be even better than I thought.
Indeed, and with that, let's get back to planning our treasure hunt. Who knows what other incredible challenges and rewards await us around the next corner? The possibilities are endless in the world of Sonic Boom and Shadow Fall.
I can't wait to see where this adventure takes us. No matter what happens, one thing is for sure. It's going to be an unforgettable journey filled with laughter, friendship, and plenty of dice rolling along the way. And isn't that what D&D is all about?
Absolutely, Alistair Skinner. Now then, who's ready to dive headfirst into this incredible campaign and make some memories that will last a lifetime? The world of Sonic Boom and Shadow Fall awaits us. But do you know what else awaits us?
No, what is it? Did I burn something again?
Ha ha! This time you can't burn anything. Chalmers had noticed your bread in the oven beforehand and switched off the power.
Oh, that's right. I'd forgotten all about the bread. Thank you for thinking of it, darling.
No problem. I'm always there for you. And switching off the oven is something I've had in my routine for a few years now.
And yet your house is constantly on fire?
Oh, don't worry about it. Must just be an overpowered god cube or something. Nothing to worry about.
Well, I'm reassured. But yes, we should set off slowly. Shadow really wanted to buy a new pair of trousers in town before stores are closed again.
Yes, I need a new pair of trousers. My old trousers have a hole in them. I can't run around outside like the last fool.
Of course, we won't keep you any longer. Thanks in any case to all our listeners out there. Thank you so much for tuning in again. And hey, if you enjoyed today's podcast, please leave us a like and a subscription.
Yes, that would make us very happy. And also, if you have any other ideas for podcasts, please let us know. Dezens will then pass them on to us.
We are always very happy to receive your suggestions. We may only be a small community, but it's a great one.
In fact, there is only one thing left to say. This is Superintendent Chalmers, Principal Skinner, Sonic, and Shadow signing off. Have a nice day. Have a
Farewell. See you soon.
Goodbye! And thank you for letting us be there today.
Yes, thanks for that. Bye-bye.